Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Storm Collectibles Street Fighter V Champion Edition E Honda, which is actually like the slightly classic retro. I don't remember what the actual terminology is for this skin for him, but it's like his classic look. I don't know if you guys have played the modern version of Street Fighter V, but some of the retro skins are called retro, some are called classic, some are called nostalgia. There's like a variety of them. I don't know which one it is. But this is his mostly classic look. You can tell by the face paint that it's a little bit different. Anyway, this is one that I was most looking forward to, not because Honda's like a favorite character of mine. I've just always liked the character design, and it looked like it was going to be a really strong release. And Storm did not disappoint for the most part. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, let's say 19.5 to the top of his head. His top knot counts for a little bit more. And that's going to make him just about, we'll say 7 3/4 inches tall, again to the top of the head, not counting for the little hair poof. And this guy does look really good, but before we get into that, let's go ahead and do a question of the day. Which of the original World Warriors is your favorite? I'm gonna have to go with Ryu, though I would have said Guile as a kid when I was first introduced to Street Fighter. Turtling with Guile was not necessarily the nicest way to play the game, but it was a viable option against people who didn't know what they were doing. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about this release. One thing that's worth noting for Storm is that they have been notoriously stocky in their sculpts. Very broad, very bulky, more so than you would actually need for Street Fighter V designs. It didn't work out as well for Zangief because his chest was kind of narrow compared to what it is in the game, because he's just humongous. He's like a wall in the game. His chest was kind of narrow. For Honda, though, I think it makes him just about perfect. I think they nailed the overall proportions about as well as you can on an action figure for this guy, so I'm very pleased with that. The proportions are great. There is shading throughout a lot of the skin. That's helpful. The skin tone is very consistent. I like that. The paintwork on his robe, definitely not as good as it could be. Is it going to be a problem? I doubt it. If you're not looking at it in like a review format, you're probably not going to notice that it's not perfect beyond, like, you know, the usual squiggly lines and stuff. Like, it's not going to stand out. That's fine. I will say his faces are probably the best faces Storm has done. I think they are particularly accurate compared to some of their other releases. Sagat's was really good, but Honda here is excellent, and they nailed the face paint. And I'll show you, we're going to get to the accessories obviously, but I'll show you another one of the heads. It's just so well executed with the eyes and the face paint and the mouth. Great sculpts, great paint. I don't know if they have a different person sculpting the faces or this one just resonated with them. I don't know, but it looks wonderful. Very nice head sculpt and paint job. The only thing that really stands out to me for this guy as a downside for the aesthetic is that there's a relatively big gap in his forearms. It's as if they intended to use a larger joint for the wrist, or they just wanted they're still using the ball peg in there for extra range, which is fine, but normally the figures have some kind of like brace or something to hide that gap. So he does have a big gap and it looks weird. Obviously you can hide that, but it is worth noting that there is a big gap in there that there's not much you can do about in like a neutral pose. Otherwise, aesthetically, it's pretty excellent. It's a nice matte finish. The robe is a little bit satin for my liking, but I think that's acceptable. So I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 for the aesthetic. The face makes up for a lot. I think the sculpt is really good for a fat, muscular guy. Nice finish. All in all, very solid aesthetic release. Alright, now as far as the accessories go, you already saw the neutral face that comes on him in the package. We do have one where his teeth are showing a little bit, another excellent head sculpt, and then we have the one where his mouth is open, again, an excellent head sculpt. For hands, we have the 2 fist hands that come on him in the package. We have 2 karate chop hands, 2 wide open palm hands, and then 2 grapply hands. And then lastly, along with a little display stand for it, we have the effect part, which would go for like his hand attack. I don't know what the moves are called anymore. I never really mained Honda in any capacity, so I don't know. But that's a decent batch of accessories. I think anybody would be pretty happy with that. 8 out of 10. I'm not in love with the way the effect part looks. I think it could be a little cleaner. It falls apart a little bit too easily, but still 8 out of 10. Pretty decent batch of accessories. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation on this guy. We're going to be doing this together because I haven't spent too much time with the figure. I thought it would be fun to explore it at the same time as you guys. The neck is your standard long ball peg, double ball peg. So there's a ball peg at the top, though the way they do it, it's just like a tube in there. So you're not going to really get much on that but a swivel. But down here, you can still move around the soft neck. Is it soft enough and is the ball peg tight enough for that to work? Can he look down? Yes, it does work. You can hear the neck. Maybe you can hear it. You can hear the ball peg fighting against the socket in there to hold it in place. It does work. I love that Storm nailed the neck. I'm trying to say neck. Shoulders. We have a big ball peg that connects the arm to the body. That's working well. I don't see any issues there. It's not tight. It's not loose. The ball hinge works well also. You can get that out to just about horizontal. No issues there. Full rotation. Minimal squeaking. Nothing that I would be concerned with at this point, so that's okay. Bicep swivel does work just fine. Double jointed elbow on this big guy. I can't get the top joint to work. Bottom joint works okay. Let's try this one. Yeah, this one works, so we'll do this. Double jointed on a big guy, still just 90. He's very chunky. That's acceptable. For a big guy like this, I will accept that. I already talked about the wrist gap there, but then you do have the ball hinge, which allows the wrist to move very nicely, so that's a good thing. Now we have the torso. It should just be a double ball peg in there. That's normally how they do it. I can see one ball peg. Looks like a double ball peg to me, so that's pretty good. Let's see how it functions. Can he lean forward? Not a ton, but he can lean forward. That'll probably be enough. Can he lean back? Yes, he can. The head does pop off fairly easily, and the body does push it off a little bit as you're posing him around. He does lean back. You're going to have to hide the gapping and reseat the head, but it does work. I wish the head was a little tighter on there. Not something you can't deal with, though. Leaning side to side works no problem, except for the robe getting in the way, and you can probably fidget with that and get that to work pretty well. And you do get, well, you should get rotation, but mine is fighting me beyond that far off center, so be careful with that. And also be mindful of this. You don't want to tuck the back fat into the lower torso and move it around too much, but I think it'll probably be okay. For the lower torso, you can see here, this is all an extra piece that tucks in at his diaper. I don't know what we have. I'm guessing it's a ball peg. Let's try to grab his fat stomach and his crotch at the same time. That's what she said. And see what we can do. It rotates. It leans back quite a lot, which will be helpful so that you can get some more stomach showing. I can't quite tell what's going on in there, though, and it's a little uncomfortable to look. But it looks like it's a ball peg. It leans forward and back. The head has come loose again. It does lean a little side to side. That might just be some slop. I'm not positive. Let's count it as just rotation, a little bit of leaning, and that's about it. You're not going to get a ton out of there. It is irritating that the head pops off. It's not like it's going to fall off, but it does pop off fairly easily. There is a split here and here, so the legs should work. Let's see how the legs function. Going out to the side, I'm thinking that's going to be enough. You can force it even more. He has the traditional... It's technically just a ball hinge, really. It's a complicated ball hinge, but that's what it is. So you can get those legs out pretty far. I can't tell if they're binding or not, because you can't move the torso enough to really mess with it. But that's pretty far out to the side for Honda, so that's all right. I'll take that. A little bit of squeaking, nothing I'm concerned with. Okay, that's a little concerning. Bringing the legs forward, that's as far as I can get them to go, and it does appear that they are binding against the diaper and his torso. Not great, so that's pretty limiting going forward. Going back, oh, that's a heavy squeak. That's gonna end up really loose or really tight. They do go back pretty far, so that's good. The robe doesn't get in the way. Be very careful. You might want to throw some shock oil in there. That's gonna be iffy. This kind of joint's very hard to lubricate. Some PTFE powder, something like that, or just be very, very careful. You do get a thigh swivel, which works nicely. Double jointed knees. Very limited, a little bit less than 90 degrees. For Honda, that might be enough. It does look like he's going to be a very static figure, unfortunately. For the ankles, they do go back a decent amount. That's fine. You can see there's a big gap here for the extra range going forward. However, they didn't cut enough away at the front of the ankle to allow the foot to go forward. So that's very limited for no reason. They could have definitely hollowed out a lot more, and it would have been super functional and barely any aesthetic loss, so that's a bummer. You do get some rotation on the foot. It's not a terrible angle, so that'll be okay. And you do get a toe hinge, which is fairly far back, and it's very ugly, so don't like that. So articulation on this guy is definitely not the strong suit. He's gonna stand there and look awesome. The sculpt is great for the most part. The paints are pretty dang clean. He's gonna look awesome in a standing pose, in a slightly posed pose, but don't expect to go crazy with him. It's pretty limited. I'll give it only a generous 6 out of 10. I'll stick with that. A 6 out of 10 for him. I don't think many people were expecting much more. He's a big fat guy with a giant robe. You know, that's gonna be a problem for an action figure, but it is what it is. So as far as the final verdict goes, I think it's a fantastic looking figure. It looks great. It's gonna pose well enough. It has a decent enough batch of accessories. I'm gonna give the final verdict on this guy an 8 out of 10. The aesthetic really, really brings it home for him. I can live with the limitations in posing. He is a sumo wrestler made out of plastic, so I get it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and we'll talk about it. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.